Hi, folks. We're having a debate between our two friends, Philosopher Mono and Magos.
So
So,
you were gonna go first?
I thought Five was gonna
Magos,
make an introduction
Magos,
thing.
are you ready to go?
I thought you were going to make an introduction thing.
I already did.
You did?
Yes.
When?
Didn't
I
you
muted
want us to
myself.
like?
Did you not notice I was mute?
Oh. Okay, well I guess you're gonna have to edit this out because that would be kind of stupid.
Yep.
Also, you wanted to get us to say that we okay with this being recorded?
Yep. Everyone okay with this?
Yeah,
I
I'm
am
okay with it.
okay with this being recorded.
Magos?
Sure.
Okay. Next. Is diversity good or bad? Magos, you have the floor. What is your opening argument?
Diversity reinforces differences and differences reinforces segregation. If you do not allow this segregation, conflict becomes inevitable. The reason is that in a diverse community, trust is limited. People of different ancestry and beliefs would rather socialize with similar people. Because of this tendency, interaction in a diverse community will be limited. Look at Switzerland. It's a very diverse country and therefore very segregated. All the different groups in Switzerland keep to themselves and rarely interact. Sweden, on the other hand, forces proximity, which causes conflict. Something we see time and again are groups acting like blocks when voting. This inherently causes conflict, as each group will focus on their own agenda. The US is a great example of this. Blacks, Hispanics, Jews, Asians, Muslims, and so on, all vote for the Democrats, since that furthers their own agenda as the party that favors minorities, with no regard to the well-being of the nation as a whole. In the latest US election, Trump versus Hillary, this became more obvious than ever, as all the minority groups voted for Hillary and the white working class people voted for Trump. Diversity officially failed, but in reality it failed a long time ago. But it's not simply a matter of race, it's ancestry, it's culture, it's religion, all in one package. Sweden and Finland, for example, were the same country for 650 years, and so, as you would expect, there are ethnic Swedes living in Finland. Have they integrated? No. Separate, segregated communities. Or how about the Scandinavians who emigrated to the US? Why? They are surely integrated, right? No, they are not. They are exhibiting exactly the same general behavior as they do in Sweden and other Nordic countries. Basically, the leftists when compared to those of Anglo-Saxon ancestry, for whom the United States was actually founded. The belief in a diverse society is the belief in magic dirt. Because how can X ever be not X? How can the Chinese be not Chinese? They're not American, they're Chinese. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just how it is. Same for every other group. If I move to Italy, will I become Italian? No, I would be what the Italians call a stranieri, or stranger. I would not become Italian. I could try to be, but I would not. Let me give you another example. The Austro-Hungarian Empire, where during World War One, the soldiers could barely understand each other because many of the soldiers spoke different languages because they came from different groups. They all live in segregated communities. And what happened when the empire fell apart? Mass immigration and emigration from different countries. History is ugly because of diversity and multiculturalism. When people are not allowed to segregate, or even worse, forced to work together, to be together, conflict arises. In Denmark, native Danes opt out from public schools where concentrations of immigrants are too high. Basically, when there are more than 35% immigrants in a school, the native Danes don't want to go to that school. They want to go to a different school with ethnic Danes because there's less conflict. And this is essentially the core of my argument. I think I've got quite a bit more time left, but this is I will let Mott speak, and then maybe we can do the discussion thing.
Okay, philosopher, what is your opening argument?
My opening argument is that diversity is simply just not enough. Diversity by itself, even proximity, will not be enough to cause major conflicts. There needs to be a secondary trigger for anything significantly bad to happen. It does create a situation in which a trigger can be made. For example, it's similar to having a bunch of wood shavings covered in gasoline. It's waiting to explode, but it needs something else to make it explode. So diversity itself is not innately bad. Also, some interesting stuff I was found is in 2014, 15, 2012, 13, up to 15, approximately around 60 to 80% of crime in America, no, not crime, homicides in America, were committed against their own race. I'll throw the statistics in the chat for that.
Where'd you get the statistics on this? Because I also did a couple statistics to make sure you guys were telling the truth. And from what I can see, is most homicides in the United States were caused by black people, either black people killing black people or black people killing white people.
Correct. This one's saying that this one's saying slightly differently. It's saying there's more whites, but it's all within racial boundary lines. And going on, I view that the major issue, one of the primary things necessary for a trigger for violence to come out over diversity is one of the factions has to have a violent history, e.g. Muslims seriously hating another Muslim faction. There has to be that, or there has to be means for war or something. And that simply having a moderate diversity situation will allow for just the change and stuff, because moderates generally don't like to go killing each other. It's just kind of a thing that humanity doesn't like to do when they're moderate.
Okay,
and
your opening argument?
I kind of spieled off there for my opening argument. My opening argument would probably be that diversity is not innately bad. It needs a trigger for it to become bad.
First question is for Magos. Is all diversity bad, or would diversity in like a workplace be good? How are you doing this?
So I'm talking about multicultural societies. I'm talking about different groups blending in a society. I'm not talking about professors discussing things in the university. That's obviously a place where you can have good diversity when you have people from all over the world working together as a team on a specific project. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about
Why are you guys in private gaming?
no.
Doing a discussion. Mute yourself.
But you're not gaming in private, are you?
Be quiet on you. So
No, I have the right to talk.
yeah, but we can all mute you.
Okay.
So
I'm just
I'm
muting
kind of
anyone who
lost-
joins.
Yeah. So I'm kind of lost track there with Armed on you. However, what I would say is that in an intellectual setting, sure, diversity of ideas and so on, but that's not what this debate is about. It's about diversity causing conflict, and it observably does. It always have done.
So, let's go on this even a little bit more. Would diversity cause conflict if you got a bunch of low working class white people and black people in the same job? Could that cause a conflict?
Well, it would lower the trust capital in the job.
They have a job.
You're not part. You're not part of this. You're in the audience.
I have the other people muted.
I have them muted too, just mute them.
Okay.
Was that question directed toward the workplace question?
Yes, that was kind of corrected right onto top of that one.
Right. Well, it observably does lower trust capital in the workplace.
Okay, so you're going out... Okay. Next question. Would diversity ever be beneficial to a society? Would these people from a certain region of the world, could they be immune to a certain virus that could be the next Black Death or anything like that? Is that type of diversity even bad as well? They could even bring immunity into the society that they're currently inhabiting.
Who's that question directed to?
Either one of you.
You mind if I take it, Mott?
Sure.
So, what's happened? I can take Sweden and US both as examples. We used to not have very many diseases in our countries because we removed the diseases. We fixed the problem. now we have tuberculosis back in Sweden and in America. Several diseases that haven't really been a problem for generations are back. This is because of diversity, because of immigration. So any interbreeding that would result in some kind of mixed breed master race, it's completely moot point. Because one, interbreeding doesn't happen on a large scale. And two, when it does happen, the effects of more diseases being brought into the country are worse than the bonus buff to immunity system that would happen. So I would say it's a completely moot point, to be honest.
Okay, second.
I would like to respond to that one, actually, if I could.
Yes, you can respond. The floor is up to you now.
On this question, I'd have to take the complete other stance, because simply having interbreeding does add an amount of immunity toward things. It passes on the natural stuff. And the argument that simple immigration brings diseases in, while that is true, there are so many other ways in which it can. Simple trade and, what's the word? When just people just come over to see stuff. They just go look at stuff. Tourism. Tourism. Tourism can bring it too. There are so many situations in which diseases can cross country lines that simply putting it all on immigration is quite silly. You'd have to have some type of view of isolationism to completely prevent that.
Can I respond to that?
Yeah, you can. I'm okay with that.
So, tourism, when you have tourists from a country, are they the working class, poor people, or are they wealthy, or semi-wealthy, middle-class people?
Semi-wealthy.
I'm also going to go into this. According to the United States government, I just looked this one up, that all tourists in the country must have immune shots against all natural forms of disease, like weasels, everything else that could be brought in from their nation. They have to have the immunity shots, or they're not allowed to come in.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, and that kind of vetting is not happening with third world mass immigration. We don't have that kind of vetting.
Okay, yeah, I can definitely see that point. I can agree that it would be a more significant factor with immigration nowadays, then.
Okay. Third question. Does immigration currently in the United States and the rest of the world, will this cause a race war between Arabs and whites, blacks and whites, or blacks against blacks? Is this going to cause intercontinental race wars, or what is going to happen with this mass immigration that is happening right now in the EU?
Well, that's what happened last time, and the time before that. So, historically speaking, yeah, it's probably going to happen again.
Is that your entire basis on the argument?
Well, my basis on the argument is if you take two incompatible cultures, two different races even of people, and you mix them together, you are going to have some kind of, perhaps not an outright race war, but some kind of major conflict. Homogeneous nation states are born out of heterogeneous empires traditionally. Look at the Austro-Hungarian Empire again, or any empire for that matter, that have spanned several different groups of people. Look at the Soviet Union. You get the same problem every single time. Look at the Pakistani and India with the massive segregation that happened there after the British Empire left. Every single time in history, you've had some kind of either peaceful disintegration of an empire or outright collapse. And I hope that we will get the peaceful disintegration of an empire. That's to say that the EU breaks apart and all the European nations deport these invaders, these colonists. But most likely at this point, we're going to have some kind of war. I think that's very likely.
Okay, Mono.
A war against the immigrants? Let me respond to that then. What was the question again?
Is immigration going to cause a race?
Yes. Okay. I don't think a major race war. I think, because for immigration it would require a country to fight, and with these immigrants just being in these cities around the world. This could be hard to wage a war against that. We're already in a war in the Middle East. That's already happening. So I think this is the race war that's going on right now. So I don't think a new one will rise, and I don't think there's going to be enough conflict with the immigrants directly from the immigrants to cause any major conflicts. A rise in crime, yes, but no major conflict will arise from it, I believe.
Now, with the rise of crime, since you put it up, Mono, this is going to be for Mono first, then you, Magos, can go second. Mono, is the rise of rape and all other violent crime good or bad for the country that all the immigrants are coming to?
I feel like that's a loaded question. Is the rise in rape good?
No. Is the rise of rape directly affected by the immigrants? I should have...
Okay, there we go. That makes more sense. I'd have to say yes, simply from the fact that it's a radically different culture coming over, and the laws are incredibly different. The outlook on how society works is incredibly different. What's considered maybe just distasteful to do over there is something that's a criminal offense over here. So I'd have to say yes, that immigrants would cause a rise in crime simply due to the fact that they're not innately familiar with how our society expectations and bounds works.
Okay. What about you, Magos?
If you look at different groups, you will see that their crime statistics are the same no matter where in the world they are. I have posted before, and I can post again if you want to, a chart of blacks, different groups of blacks all over the world, in Africa, in US, and the crime statistics, the homicide rate related to these groups. And they're the same no matter where they are in the world. The same goes for Japanese people, Chinese people, no matter where in the world they are, they act like the people they are. White people act like white people no matter where they live, and so on. And if you take a bunch of Arabs, they're going to have worse impulse control than white people. This is simply the case. They're going to be more prone towards violent crime. So yes, obviously, you're going to have increased rape. I mean, statistically speaking, if you look at Sweden, 2012, the floodgates opened and mass immigration really started in Sweden. Now, almost a fifth of the country's population is Muslim. And it looks like, if you look at the statistics, it's a skyrocket. Rape, homicide, grenade attacks, things that we didn't have before in Sweden, have skyrocketed. There's no denying that the immigration is the major contributor to increased crime in the West. Simply fact.
Okay. Another. Does this affect education? Are children being dumbed down for the immigrants, or are the immigrants rising up to get onto the same standards as our current children? Magos?
Are you familiar with the PISA scores?
No.
So there's this international thing that goes on every few years. They test schools from all around the world, different grades, and the what's it called? They have this score. So they score every country based on how well the students do. And so you can plot on a graph exactly how well a country has been doing over the years. We can see in the entire West exactly the same trend. It's going down, down, down every time there's a new test. Look in Eastern Europe, it's going up because they don't have mass immigration. Instead, they're working on fixing their education. While we in Europe have more socialism, more immigration, and things are going downhill fast. It's the homogeneous nations that are doing well and that are improving, and it's the heterogeneous or nations that are becoming more heterogeneous that are doing worse.
Okay. Philosopher?
I'd have to. I would think that the immigrants coming in, the children wouldn't have a major impact upon the children themselves will not have a major directly impact on our children. I feel like either procedures or policies that we implement because immigration is happening, or just new policies and procedures in general would have a much greater effect upon how our children are being educated and the effectiveness of said education.
Can I
But
respond to that?
Sure.
So why in that case are the Danish students, the native Danish, the ethnic Danish students, opting out from public schools with a large concentration of immigrants? Is it because the schools with lots of immigrants are so much better? Is that why the Danish are opting out from them? Or perhaps, more logically, they're opting out because those schools are worse, because the immigrants are making the work environment, the study environment, significantly worse. So it's not as nice to go to those schools anymore. I think there's a very strong correlation between immigration and lowered results, and I think there's causation there. I think it's the immigrants causing trouble.
Okay, next thing. Loyalty to a country. Do immigrants actually become part of the one's nation, or do they retain their own heritage and always try to make their own heritage the new laws? Philosopher, actually, I'll have you go first.
I think it's it's leaning toward they try to keep their own heritage. I honestly believe that you cannot completely get rid of your heritage. Your heritage is something you can rationalize it as something you can be proud of that makes you different from the people around you, which then just makes it so easy for you to let it define your person. That just because you're different, you can let it define you. So I don't believe that immigrants will have an incredibly difficult time of fully integrating into a society and being unidentifiable from the people around them. I feel that would be nearly impossible for most immigrants to do.
What about their second generation immigrants? Or third generation?
It's going to be easier, but you're still going to be different. Unless there's a lot of unless you've interbred and it's become a mixed race, it's going to be really hard.
Okay. Magos, your turn.
Yeah. X can never be not X. If you're part of a group, you're part of that group. There's no such thing as magic dirt that can just make the whoever moves to a country be part of that country. They're still going to have the same loyalty as they had before. It's like I said in my opening statement. Chinese can never be not Chinese. They're still the same group, and there's nothing wrong with that per se. But it means that if you have immigration on any meaningful scale, you're going to have problems associated with that because of the different groups being different.
Quick clarification on that. Do you think that applies in every situation, even on an individual case-by-case basis? A person couldn't come over because they hate the country and wanted to fully integrate that way? Do you think that's possible?
I'm talking about group behavior.
Okay, just want to make that clear.
I mean, you can obviously have someone from Sweden moving to Italy and becoming, the most stereotypical Italian ever in behavior, but they're still going to be genetically Swedish. And if they interbreed with the Italians, after a few generations, you won't notice a difference. But the moment when you have a large number of people, they're going to build their own society within the society, and they're not going to interbreed. And if they do, that's not necessarily a good thing. It sometimes is, sometimes isn't. But they're not going to do it anyway. Historically has proven this.
Okay. Another question for both of you. Do you think it's too late to turn back, or do you believe that going forward with the diversity is the best route for all the current nations with a sweep of nationalism with each nation? Do you believe going back it has some option, or only going forward with the new immigrants coming into the country? Philosopher?
I do not believe that the option of turning back and taking a new course is completely... I can't seem to rationalize a way for it, a negative impact. I can see some minor negative impacts, but in the long term, I can't see why that would not be a good option. There's always ways to go back most of the time.
Go back before the immigrants came over and start returning a lot of the immigrants that are currently in the European Union.
I assume you mean some type of policy of deportation, and such. Yeah, it would be off, but I do feel that there could be some positive outcomes of that, and in general, that course of action could end in a positive outcome, I believe.
Okay, that's something I did not expect from you because you're supposed to be defending diversity, but okay. Philosopher.
Again.
No, not a philosopher. Sorry, Magos.
So the historically there's a precedent for this already. You're familiar with what President Eisenhower did.
Yes.
What's the God damn it, what's the term? He deported a very large number, I think 11 million Mexicans from the United States of America. A lot of those had U.S. citizenship. He deported them anyway because they needed to go. So there is a precedent for this. It has been done before, and it should be done again. If we want the Western nation states and the United States of America to continue existing and be functioning countries, then we're going to have to do the same thing again, as has been done before.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to do for closing arguments, or do you guys have any other points that you would like to bring out right now?
A question, Mott.
Yes.
The thing you said in your opening statement, could you repeat that about the powder cake sort of thing?
Okay. In general, basically, it's because I originally thought the discussion was going to be about the diversity plus proximity equals violence, but it went on to more general immigration stuff. But my original argument was going to be that simple proximity and diversity is not all that is needed for violence. You need some sort of trigger, an outbreak, and such.
Yes, that was a thing that I was going to try and refute, so to speak.
Oh, okay. Then this is. I would enjoy this.
Okay, because you are familiar, I'm sure, with the work of Robert Putnam, the famous American social researcher.
What do you do?
So he made a study and later a book called Bowling Alone. Basically, he looked at excuse me. Some people are working in my house right now. So he made a study called Bowling Alone, where he measured the social trust capital in a community, essentially. And what he discovered is that when you have different groups in a community, a diverse community, so to speak, people are less happy. They're more prone to crime, and they're less prone to community activities, and social cohesion is lost. And so this builds up over time, is my argument, essentially, until the powder keg is just ready to explode.
Also, I'll do some clarification for Mott. Why I picked my question is diversity plus proximity. How do you get the diversity in the proximity without immigration, without other events happening in the background that can count as triggers as well to a race war? There has to be some immigration. There has to be something happening in the background for something to happen.
Yep. I don't have an issue with the discussion. When it was just I was preparing for something slightly different. It's not a big issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else you guys want to do for any more closing arguments, or are you guys both done?
Well, I think I said basically what I...
Same. I think I've said my said.